The first raindrop touches the glass, and you hear it, a soft tick like the brush of a fingertip on a drum. Another follows, then another, until the rhythm gathers into a quiet symphony. You lie still listening. The world outside your window begins to dissolve into sound, as though the night itself is being rewritten drop by drop. Rain has a way of slowing you. It washes the edges off the day's noise and blurs the sharpness of thought. You notice how each drop arrives alone, yet instantly becomes part of something larger, something continuous, like voices joining a choir. This is how your own mind works too. Each thought arrives on its own, a flicker of memory, a spark of worry, a glimmer of hope. But when they fall together, they form a stream, and the stream carries you gently toward rest. Close your eyes and imagine the raindrops not only as water, but as time itself. Each drop a moment, falling, disappearing, joining the river of your life. You cannot hold a drop. It slips away the instant you notice it. And yet, together, they nourish the soil, feed the rivers, and shape the earth. In this way, even what is fleeting leaves behind something lasting. Scientists tell us that the sound of rain, that delicate, irregular tapping, is especially calming to the human brain. It belongs to a family of sounds called pink noise, which are softer, deeper, and more balanced than harsh, sharp noises. Pink noise slows your heartbeat, lowers the tension in your muscles, and encourages your brain waves to move into a rhythm closer to sleep. That is why, as you listen now, you feel your body softening into the mattress, your breath finding its own gentle tide. The water that falls tonight has lived many lives before this moment. Each drop has traveled for centuries, cycling through clouds and rivers, mountains and seas. Perhaps the raindrop on your window once rested deep inside an ancient glacier or shimmered on the surface of a prehistoric ocean where early life began to stir. Perhaps it once fell as snow upon a forest where mammoths walked. Water is a traveler without end, always moving, always returning. As you breathe in, your body joins this same cycle. The moisture in your lungs, the fluid in your veins, the tears you have shed, all are part of this endless story. You are, in truth, made mostly of water. More than half of your body is liquid, flowing silently within you, echoing the same rhythm you hear outside. The rain is not separate from you. It is kin, returning home. Let yourself feel that connection. Sky to earth, earth to river, river to sea, sea to cloud, and cloud back again to sky. This cycle is as old as the planet itself. When the first rains fell billions of years ago, they cooled the molten earth, shaping the oceans that would cradle the first living cells. Without the rain, there would be no life, no voice to tell this story, no ears to hear it now. The sound deepens as the storm gathers. Drops no longer fall singly, but together, weaving into a steady curtain. It is like lying beneath an instrument too vast to see, where every surface of the world is a drum, every leaf and stone a string. The music of the rain is older than language, older than memory. And still, you understand it, not through words, but through feeling. Notice how your mind wanders as you listen. One drop sounds like a finger tapping on wood, another like the shuffle of feet on a distant floor. Your imagination begins to shape the sounds into stories, little flickers of meaning. This is how your brain works in the moments before sleep, weaving fragments of reality into the beginnings of dreams. Rain is a guide, carrying you softly toward that threshold. If you focus closely, you hear layers in the storm. The heavy drops strike against the glass, sharp and present. Softer drops scatter against the soil, muffled and deep. The rooftop hums with a hollow vibration, while the trees outside sway and whisper with each gust of wind. Altogether, They form a living orchestra, an infinite song made only once, never repeated the same way again. You notice how natural it feels to drift into rhythm with this sound. Your breath, too, finds a pattern, in, out, like waves, like rain. Each inhale is a gathering cloud. Each exhale, a soft release, a falling drop. Sleep itself is much like the weather. It arrives not all at once, but slowly in shifts and cycles. First a drizzle, then a steady rain, and finally a deep storm of dreams. Science calls these cycles non-REM and REM stages of sleep. They rise and fall in waves through the night, just as storms rise and fade. In the beginning, your mind lingers in light sleep, half alert, half drifting. Then, as the night deepens, you fall into slow wave sleep. When the brain repairs itself, memories settle, and the body restores. Later, REM sleep comes with its vivid dreaming and flickering images. Like rain that begins softly, grows wild, and then fades again, your night is a weather pattern all its own. Outside, the world is being washed clean. Dust runs into the earth. Air is cooled and refreshed. The same thing happens inside you as you drift into sleep. Your thoughts, scattered and restless, are rinsed away. What is heavy begins to settle. What is tangled begins to loosen. Rain does outside what sleep does within. Both are renewals. Both are ways of beginning again. You let the sound carry you. Imagine the raindrops not as random, but as messages, tiny letters from the sky. Each one says, slow down, let go, be still. Each one reminds you that you are part of something vast, and that the world is safe enough, gentle enough to close your eyes. And yet, even within the calm, there lingers a question. Because when rain falls, it sometimes hides things too. Behind its steady curtain, shapes blur, shadows move, sounds are softened but not silenced. The night is never fully empty. What walks in the rain? What whispers behind a rhythm? You cannot know, not yet. The first raindrops open the story. The storm has only just begun. You listen, safe and still, as the storm deepens. Somewhere within the curtain of rain, a glow appears, faint, flickering, waiting. And you wonder, what is it that shines alone in the darkness, like a lantern on an empty road? The rain falls steadily now, draping the night in its endless curtain. You walk slowly, each step softened by the wet earth beneath your feet. The air smells of soil and leaves, washed clean by the storm. Somewhere ahead, through the blur of raindrops, a faint glow trembles. At first, it seems like a trick of the eyes, a shimmer born from tired vision. But then you see it more clearly, a lantern swaying in the wind, casting a soft, golden halo on the empty road. You pause, watching it flicker. In the rain's silver-gray world, the lantern is the only color, the only warmth. Its light moves as if it breathes, inhaling when the flame leans tall, exhaling when it bends low. You wonder, who placed it there? Why does it burn alone in the storm? Light has always been a guide for human eyes. Long before electric bulbs and city lamps, people trusted lanterns, candles, and torches to break the night. Light meant safety, a promise that the dark could not swallow everything. Even animals know this. Fireflies glow to call to one another. Deep-sea creatures shimmer in darkness to hunt or hide. Across the universe, light is language, the most ancient form of communication. You take a step closer, and the glow stretches toward you. The rain makes the flames sputter, but it refuses to go out. This persistence feels familiar. Light, after all, is energy, pure and constant. What you see inside the lantern is fire, yes, but beneath it lies something greater. The physics of photons, tiny particles of light racing through the air. Each photon has traveled across space in less than an instant. striking your eye and becoming vision. It is astonishing to think how delicate the flame looks, yet how endless the journey of light truly is. Your mind drifts back in time. Imagine the first humans who carried lanterns of flame through the wilderness. For them, light was more than visibility. It was hope. A lantern on a lonely path meant someone else had been there. Someone else had survived the dark. Tonight, you feel the same comfort. In the middle of the storm, the lantern says, "You are not alone." The closer you walk, the more details appear. The metal frame of the lantern is old, rusted in places, its glass stained with streaks of smoke. It hangs from a bent wooden post, swaying gently with the wind. Each creak of the post is drowned by the rain, yet you imagine you hear it groan like an old voice. The glow reaches across the wet road, scattering reflections on puddles. Each ripple distorts the light into strange shapes, circles stretching into ovals, stars dissolving into ribbons. The physics of water bends light like a lens, curving its path so that you see not just one lantern, but many. In truth, every puddle is a mirror, each one creating a small, distorted universe of its own. You stop to stare into one of those puddles. The lantern bends, stretches, dances across the trembling water. In that reflection, you see not only the flame, but yourself, your outline mixed with its glow. The thought comes softly. Are you watching the lantern, or is it watching you? There is science in this question, too. Light does not exist for itself. It needs an eye, a surface, a receiver. Without something to catch it, light would pass unseen, unacknowledged. The lantern's flame is real, but its story begins only when your eyes translate photons into vision. Perception completes the act of shining. In this way, the lantern seems to need you as much as you need it. The rain thickens and the flame bends low, trembling. You feel a pang of worry. Will it vanish? But just as the thought comes, the lantern steadies. Its flame leaps higher, alive again. There is resilience in fire. Scientists tell us that combustion is a process of transformation. Fuel becoming heat, carbon, and light. What seems fragile is, in truth, constant renewal. Fire is change made visible. And isn't that what you are too? A being of transformations. Every breath turning oxygen into energy. Every cell shedding and remaking itself. Your body is a lantern of its own, glowing with electrical currents and quiet fires. The warmth you feel in your chest as you stand near the flame is not only from the lantern. It is from a reminder that you, too, are burning with life. For a while, you stand beneath the rain and let the lantern's glow mingle with the storm. Drops sparkle as they pass near its flame, each one igniting for a heartbeat before vanishing into the ground. It is a fleeting beauty, a fire-colored raindrop, existing for less than a second. Yet such moments are what make the night memorable. The smallest sparks linger in a mind long after the storm has passed. You think of other lights in other storms. The lighthouse guiding ships across violent seas. The candle in a window that welcomes a traveler home. The stars above the earth, burning across unimaginable distances, reminding you that even in the deepest dark, there is always something shining. Perhaps that is why you are drawn to this lantern. It is not simply an object on a road. It is a message, a pattern you have always known. That light appears when you need it most. And though the storm may rage, the glow is enough to guide your steps onward. The air around you feels warmer now, though the rain still chills your skin. Warmth is not only heat, it is meaning. It is the comfort of knowing that someone, somewhere, placed this lantern and lit it, even if you may never meet them. Like the stars, it may have burned for ages without being seen, until you came along. You take another step forward, letting the glow grow larger in your eyes. The flame steadies, as if responding to your nearness. You breathe slowly, matching its rhythm. Inhale when it leans tall, exhale when it bends low. The lantern has become a companion in the storm, its breath joined to yours. And yet, as calming as it feels, something lingers beneath the peace. The road is empty. No footprints mark the mud. No trace of hands remains on the wooden post. The lantern shines, but you do not know how or why. In its glow, the rain seems darker at the edges, as though shadows are waiting just beyond the circle of light. You look again into the puddle at your feet. The flame ripples, stretching, breaking into fragments. Within those broken shapes, you see something else, a suggestion of movement, a shimmer that does not belong to the flame alone. Perhaps it is your imagination, or perhaps it is the way the world looks when rain and light blur together. But you cannot shake the feeling that the lantern is not the only thing on this road. You lift your eyes to the shadows just beyond the glow, and your heart slows to match the storm. The sound of rain grows louder, masking every other noise. For a moment, you wonder, if footsteps were there, would you hear them? The lantern sways gently, its flame holding steady. But in the rhythm of the storm, another rhythm emerges, slow, heavy, almost like footsteps on the wet road. And you begin to wonder, who else walks in the rain tonight? The storm has deepened. Rain falls harder now, turning the road into a shifting mirror of puddles. The lantern's glow fades behind you as you walk forward, your steps sinking into the soft earth. Each drop of rain strikes your shoulders, your hair, your face, as though the night itself is reaching down to remind you of its presence. You move slowly, guided only by the sound of the storm. Yet through that steady curtain of rain, another rhythm begins to rise. At first, you think it is the echo of your own footsteps. But then you hear it again, a sound heavier, slower, striking the ground with a deliberate weight. Footsteps. They fall in time with yours, a shadow of your movement. You stop, hold your breath. The rain roars around you, but the other steps stop too. Silence. Only the storm continues. You begin walking again, and after a moment, there it is, the sound returning, steady and unyielding, pressing closer. It is a strange thing to feel your own body reflected in sound. Each step is your heartbeat, your breath, mirrored by something unseen. Your senses sharpen, pulling details from the night. The smell of wet bark, the glisten of leaves bending under the rain, the distant murmur of water running through the ditch. Yet always, beneath it, the footsteps. Your heart begins to match their rhythm. Slow, heavy, relentless. The human body is built for rhythm. Your heart pumps blood in pulses. Your lungs breathe in tides. Your brain waves rise and fall like the sea. Scientists call this synchronization entrainment, when one rhythm falls into step with another. You feel it now, your body entrained with the storm and with the echo of the steps behind you. Rain, too, has its rhythm. It is not constant but patterned, a scatter of heavy drops, a mist of lighter ones, the percussion of water against different surfaces. You can hear the music of randomness in it, what mathematicians call chaos. Not chaos as disorder, but chaos as complexity too vast to predict. Footsteps, on the other hand, are not chaotic. They are deliberate, repeated, carved into time. The contrast unsettles you. Nature moves in waves, while footsteps fall in certainty. Somewhere in the space between them, your imagination stirs. Perhaps the sound truly is your own echo, bouncing from the wet road, amplified by puddles and hollowed by ditches. Acoustics is a trickster. Sound bends with the air, dances with water, and hides in reflections. Sound travels faster through wet air than dry, carried by the density of moisture. Each drop of rain shapes the path of sound, scattering it like glass shards bending light. What you hear may be nothing more than the storm playing its tricks. And yet, the feeling lingers that something moves with you, something just beyond your sight. The storm becomes a veil, a curtain hiding what lies beneath. You know how shadows blur under rainfall, how faces disappear behind mist. Still, the thought presses against your skin. You are not alone. You think of animals that walk silently in storms. Wolves padding on wet ground, their paws cushioned by the earth. Owls gliding above, feathers muffled by the rain. Even smaller lives, beetles, frogs, snails, emerge when storms come, their movements hidden beneath the sound of water. The storm is not emptiness, it is a gathering. Life listens to rain as you do, waiting for its rhythm. Your breath slows. You listen more closely. The footsteps feel heavier now, as though they belong to something with weight. The air shifts around you, the rain seeming to fall in patterns, forming hollows of silence where the sound might live. Science tells us that hearing is more primal than vision. Before eyes evolved, life already sensed vibrations in water and air. Even now, your ears guide you through darkness when your eyes cannot. Sound is survival. It tells you where and when and who. Tonight, your body remembers this ancient vigilance. The hair on your arms rises, tuned not to the storm, but to what walks within it. The footsteps stop again when you stop. They mimic, reflect, mirror. It feels almost like you are being studied, as though the storm is not only listening, but answering. You wonder, is this how the first humans felt when they walked through forests at night? Every sound alive, every echo a possible presence. Their bodies learned to sharpen attention, to distinguish between the crack of a branch, the rustle of leaves, the warning of a predator. Fear itself was a teacher shaping their minds for survival. And yet, fear is not always danger. Sometimes, it is imagination filling the unknown with stories. Your brain, designed to notice patterns, creates presence from absence. In the rhythm of your steps, it invents a companion. The line between reality and imagination softens, and both feel equally real. You pause once more, letting the rain gather on your skin. For a moment, the footsteps do not return. Instead, you hear the subtle layers of storm. Drops striking tin, water gurgling in hidden places, the distant roll of thunder. Each sound has a place, a logic. Then, just as you begin to believe the echo has vanished, the rhythm comes again. Heavy, slow, relentless. You turn your head, but the storm blinds your vision. Only the swaying trees, their branches bowing like figures in the wind. Lightning flickers, revealing nothing but rain-soaked emptiness. And yet, when the flash fades, your heart insists. Something lingers there. There is science in lightning, too. The storm is an orchestra of forces. Electricity building in clouds. Charges is separating until the air itself splits open with light. Thunder follows, a rolling echo of that cosmic spark. Every flash illuminates the world for a heartbeat, showing what is hidden. But just as quickly, darkness swallows it back. Lightning is a reminder. You can see only in fragments. The rest must be imagined. You begin walking again, and the footsteps return. This time, they do not mimic exactly. They drag slightly behind, slower, as though the one walking does not hurry. Their patience unnerves you more than their presence. Rain patters faster, wind rises, and still the rhythm continues. Your body reacts in small ways. Shoulders tense, breath shortens. But another part of you grows calm. There is a strange comfort in being mirrored. To know that even in the storm, something follows, matching your path. Loneliness softens when you believe someone or something shares your road. Perhaps that is the mystery of echoes. They remind you that sound does not vanish. Every footstep leaves a trace in the air, bouncing, bending, returning. Physics ensures that nothing spoken or struck ever truly disappears. It lingers quieter and quieter, but present. Tonight, your own steps return to you in the storm, reshaped, unrecognizable, haunting. You come to a crossroads in the road, where the rainwater gathers into streams that run downhill. The lantern's glow is gone now, lost in the distance. The only light is the silver flash of lightning above. You stand still, listening. The footsteps arrive again, closer this time. Heavy, slow, relentless. And then they stop. The storm fills the silence, rushing, pounding, endless. You feel your breath join it, your heartbeat caught between fear and wonder. You cannot tell if what you heard was real or only the storm's way of teaching you about yourself. Science cannot answer everything. The human mind is both receiver and creator. What you hear may belong to the world or to your own imagination. Perhaps there is no difference. From the rhythm of footsteps, whether real or echo, you are reminded that every presence, even your own, leaves ripples in the silence of night. You turn your eyes down the road, and there, through the veil of rain, you see it, an outline in the distance. A house, its windows dark, its shape softened by the storm. You wonder, what stories wait inside the old house by the river? The footsteps fade as you turn your gaze toward the river. Through the shifting veil of rain, you see it, an old house, sitting alone at the water's edge. Its silhouette is softened by the storm, as though the rain is painting it anew with every drop. At first, the shape looks almost natural, like a hill or a tree, but then the windows catch a glimmer of lightning, and the house reveals itself. It seems alive. The walls bend with shadows. The roof leans forward as though listening, and the windows shine like watching eyes. The door, heavy and weathered, seems to breathe with the wind, swelling and shrinking as though the house itself is inhaling the storm. You move closer, each step sinking into the mud. The river beside the house is swollen, water rushing past with unstoppable force. Its sound merges with the rain until you cannot tell which belongs to the sky and which to the earth. Both are water in motion, one falling, one flowing. You pause to watch the river churn, its surface foaming, carrying branches and leaves downstream. Water is never still. It moves through endless cycles, rain to river, river to ocean, ocean to cloud. Inside your body, too, water flows ceaselessly, blood through veins, oxygen carried in liquid streams, cells bathed in silent currents. Just as the house drinks the storm through its soaked walls, you too are a vessel of moving rivers. The house waits unmoving. Its roof tiles are broken in places, ivy clings to its sides, and its porch sags under years of neglect. Yet the rain softens it, smoothing sharp edges, making it look less ruined and more alive, as though time itself is breathing through it, giving it a kind of memory. Houses, like bodies, carry memories. Wood absorbs the scent of smoke from long-vanished fires. Stone holds the marks of weather, the imprint of hands that once built it. Every creak of a floorboard is the echo of footsteps that passed long ago. Scientists say materials themselves can remember stress. Metal bends differently if it has been bent before. Wood breaks more easily where it once cracked. Memory, in this way, is not only human, it is woven into matter itself. You stand beneath the eaves, sheltered from the rain for the first time all night. The sound changes here. Outside, the storm roars. Inside this small shelter, it is muffled, softened into a hush. Silence, you realize, is not the absence of sound. It is simply sound transformed. Your heartbeat fills the quiet. Your breath becomes louder. The house magnifies your own presence, reflecting you back to yourself. You place a hand on the door. It feels damp, swollen with water, but warm beneath your palm, as if it has been waiting. The thought stirs something in you. Are buildings alive in their own way? Not with breath and blood, but with memory and presence? You recall how scientists describe emergence, the idea that life is not only in the parts, but in the way they join. A house is wood, stone, and metal, yet together it becomes something more, a place, a keeper of time, a silent witness. You push gently, and the door creaks open. The sound is long and low like a sigh. Inside, the air is still. You step across the threshold, and instantly the storm feels distant, muffled behind thick walls. Shadows stretch across the floor, broken by streaks of light from the windows. Dust rises with your breath, floating like tiny ghosts, swirling in the lantern's faint memory that lingers in your mind. The silence here is deeper than the storm, not empty, but layered. You hear the groan of beams settling, the drip of water through the roof, the faint rush of the river outside. It feels less like entering a place and more like entering a pause in time, a pocket where the world has stopped, waiting for you to listen. You walk slowly across the room, your footsteps echoing on the old boards. Each step sounds too loud, as though the house itself is paying attention. The walls close around you, but not unkindly. They feel more like an embrace, a reminder that to be enclosed is sometimes to feel safe. After all, homes are the first shelters humans ever built against the chaos of the world. Shelter is memory written into our bones. You notice the way the windows gleam. They catch the light of lightning and reflect it inward, scattering patterns across the floor. Glass itself is a strange material, neither fully liquid nor fully solid, a frozen fluid that moves so slowly you cannot see it. Some scientists argue that ancient stained glass windows have thickened at their base over centuries, flowing in ways invisible to human time. Looking through glass, you're always peering through something that carries a secret history of motion. The rain taps at the glass like fingers. Each drop streaks downward, blurring the view outside until the storm looks like a painting that has begun to run. You find comfort in that distortion. To see the world softened, its sharp edges melted, is like watching your own thoughts dissolve at the edge of sleep. In one corner of the room stands a staircase, its steps vanishing into shadow. You wonder what waits above. Dust, perhaps, forgotten furniture, or only more silence. Stairs are always invitations, upward, downward into mystery. The brain, too, holds its own staircases. Neurons fire, memories are stored, and every thought you climb leads to another, higher or deeper. You feel it now. The pull to explore, the curiosity to know what lingers unseen. But you remain still. The storm is your companion, and the house is enough for now. You breathe deeply, letting the silence settle into you. Your body relaxes, shoulders softening, as though the weight of the storm has been taken by the house itself. And yet, the deeper quiet carries something else. A presence faint but undeniable. You sense it in the way the air shifts, in the subtle creak above, in the stillness that feels not empty but watchful. Perhaps it is only the echo of your imagination, shaping stories from silence. Or perhaps, as with the footsteps, the house remembers more than you expect. You listen carefully, and for a moment, you think you hear it, a sound from upstairs. A shuffle, almost too soft to notice. The kind of sound that might be expanding with moisture, or the trace of something moving in the dark. Your breath slows, steady like the river outside. You are not afraid. Curiosity outweighs fear, just as it always has for humankind. Without curiosity, no one would have entered the first caves, lit the first fires, or built the first shelters. Fear and curiosity walk together, like rain and river storm, and silence. You stand still, waiting. The sound above fades into nothing, leaving you in the deep hush once more. Outside, thunder rolls, and the windows flash with light. The storm is not over, and neither is the night. You glance toward the staircase, its shadow stretching upward like an invitation. The silence deepens, and you wonder, if someone were there, waiting in the fog of the night, would you see their outline? The rain, steady and endless, begins to change. You notice it first as a blur on the edges of your vision, the way shapes lose their outlines, the way distance folds into softness. What once fell as sharp beads of water now becomes a shroud, a fog that thickens between the trees, between the road, between the world you thought you knew. Each droplet becomes part of something larger, merging into a veil that is both curtain and mirror, hiding and reflecting. You slow your steps, breathing in the damp air that smells of earth and riverstone. The night has grown quieter, as if the storm itself is holding its breath. And then you see it. At first, it is nothing more than a shadow, a darker blur within the blur. You squint, try to convince yourself it is only the play of mist, only the merging of branches and distance. But no, it is something else. A figure, tall, still, watching. The figure does not move, but neither does it vanish. It waits. You cannot see a face, only the sense of a presence outlined by the shifting fog. The lantern glow you carried feels smaller now, flickering against the immensity of the mist. You wonder if the figure sees the light, or if it was drawn to it, like a moth circling some silent flame. Your heart beats with a rhythm you cannot quiet. The storm masks most sounds, yet you feel the air vibrate, as if something invisible has entered its pulse. You stand still, uncertain whether to step closer or turn away. And then, as the silence stretches, you realize something curious. The figure does not advance. It simply waits, holding its place as though it is not of the fog, but of time itself. You think of how human eyes are built to search for patterns, to find faces in shadows, to create meaning in shapes. This instinct has kept our kind alive for millennia, warning us of predators, guiding us toward companions. But in the fog, the rules bend. The mist carries no sharp edges, only gradients of gray. Here, your brain fills in the missing pieces, sketching an outline where none may exist. Perhaps this figure is no more than your own reflection stretched into the storm. Or perhaps it is something that has been here long before you arrived, waiting for your footsteps to cross its silence. You breathe in, feeling the damp cling to your skin, and the question deepens. What is presence? What does it mean for something or someone to exist before you, apart from you, yet connected to your awareness? The stranger does not speak, but in its silence you sense a dialogue forming. It is the same quiet conversation you have when you gaze at the stars. Those distant suns do not address you, do not even know you are here. And yet, looking at them, you feel a connection that transcends words. Perhaps the figure is like that, not a threat, not a companion, but a mirror of your own search for meaning in the mist. You step forward slowly, and the fog curls around your movement. The figure does not recede, but it does not grow sharper either. It remains just beyond clarity, just at the edge of certainty. You recall that fog itself is only water, billions of droplets suspended in the air, so small that they scatter light in every direction. Each droplet is less than 1/100th of a millimeter wide, yet together they can obscure mountains, hide rivers, blur entire landscapes. This stranger you see is built of the same illusion, not a solid wall, but a collection of fragments, a puzzle of perception. And then you wonder, if a droplet can bend light, if fog can conceal, then how much of the world you see is only the echo of what is really there. The figure shifts, or does it? Perhaps it is only the fog moving or your eyes straining to anchor what cannot be pinned down. The more you look, the more you realize it is not the figure that changes, but you. You are the one carrying questions, weaving stories, painting meaning onto the mist. Your breath slows. The rain, though softer now, drums faintly against the earth, and you begin to feel a strange calm. Perhaps the figure is not here to be understood. Perhaps it is here to remind you that not everything must be named to be felt. There is a quiet wisdom in uncertainty, a kind of peace in not knowing. The unknown, after all, is not always an enemy. Sometimes it is simply a space where imagination and science meet, where fear and wonder share the same path. You close your eyes for a moment and listen. The fog makes the world small, cocooning sound, softening the storm. When you open them again, the figure is still there, silent, still, watching. It does not approach. It does not fade. It exists in the same way the horizon does, unreachable, yet undeniably present. You realize then that perhaps the figure was never about answers. It was about presence itself. The stranger in the fog is less a being and more an invitation to linger, to question, to breathe. Your mind wanders to the nature of vision, how photons travel across unimaginable distances, bouncing off surfaces, carrying whispers of shape and color until they touch the sensitive tissue of your eyes. Yet in the fog, those photons scatter wildly, never reaching you in straight lines. The result is this blur, this figure, this question. And so you are reminded, everything you see is not the thing itself, but the story of light. The stranger in the fog is a reminder of that story. The way perception bends truth, the way uncertainty can be beautiful. Minutes stretch, or perhaps only seconds. Time itself feels softened here. You take another step, but the ground feels unchanged, the distance unclosed. The figure remains where it was, as though bound not by space, but by meaning. And in that moment you understand something subtle. The fog is not hiding the world from you. It is giving you a chance to experience it differently, without edges, without certainty, without haste. You feel your breath deepen, your heartbeat slowing to the rhythm of rain. The stranger does not vanish, but you begin to sense that it does not need to. Its role is not to reveal, but to remain. And in its remaining, it teaches you something. That mystery has its own kind of presence, its own quiet form of companionship. You lower the lantern, watching its glow shimmer against the mist. The figure's outline flickers in and out, as though responding to the light, as though woven from the same strands of darkness and brightness. You wonder, just for a moment, if perhaps the figure carries its own lantern too, a hidden flame inside the fog, unseen but steady. And then something subtle happens. The fog thins only slightly, and for the briefest instant, you think you glimpse movement. Not forward, not back, but within. A shift like breath passing through lungs. A life. But before you can be certain, the mist folds over it again, and the figure becomes what it always was. Suggestion, presence, possibility. You stand in the rain, knowing now that some truths are not meant to be grasped, only carried. The stranger in the fog is not yours to hold, but it is yours to remember. Like a dream you cannot fully recall, it lingers at the edge of thought, waiting to return when the night is quiet and the air is heavy with mist. And perhaps you think that is enough. The figure does not vanish, yet you feel the weight of its gaze soften into silence. As you walk on, the fog thickens, and with each step you wonder, if a stranger can wait for you in mist, what else might be waiting in the shadows of the night? The storm softens as you enter the trees. Rain still falls, but But its sound changes here. It no longer strikes roofs or windows, no longer runs along the stony paths of villages. Instead, it filters through branches, dripping gently from leaf to leaf. The forest has its own way of catching the rain, turning it into music, softer, layered, like a lullaby played on countless trembling strings. At first, you only notice the rhythm of it, the tapping, the pattering, the brushing of drops sliding down bark. But as you listen longer and deeper, you hear something more. A pattern hidden within the sound. A shape in the noise, like faint words disguised as rain. You stop walking, and in the stillness, you let the forest speak. The branches bend in the storm's breath, their wooden arms creaking like doors that have stood closed for centuries. The leaves tremble, clattering against each other like tiny bells. And through that chorus comes a whisper, not one voice, but many, threading together, weaving in and out, forming sentences that dissolve before you can hold them. It feels as though the forest is remembering. You think about how trees, in truth, do whisper to one another. Through their roots, through the fungi that connect them underground, a hidden language flows. Scientists call it the wood wide web. Nutrients and signals pass beneath the soil. Warnings of insects, messages of drought, a parent tree sending food to its saplings, an elder tree offering carbon to the young when sunlight grows thin. All this happens in silence, unseen, yet alive, a language of survival written in sugar and water, carried through threads as thin as hair. Standing here in the storm, you wonder if you're overhearing that very conversation. A chorus of survival, a gathering of memory. You cannot understand the words, but you feel the intent. Connection, protection, the quiet care of one being reaching for another. The whispers guide you forward. Each gust of wind seems to push you along. Each branch leans in as though pointing the way. The path is narrow, carved not by hands, but by footsteps that came long before yours. And even though you know the forest is old, something about this moment makes it feel awake in a new way, as if it has been waiting for you to notice its voice. You pause beside a great oak. Its trunk is wide enough that it would take several people, hand in hand, to encircle it. Lightning flashes above, and in that sudden light, you see the oak's branches stretch outward like veins, reaching to touch the trees around it. This is not just one tree, you realize. It is part of a greater body, a living cathedral built root by root. The whispers thicken here, clustering around you. Some sound like echoes of your own thoughts, spoken back in a softer tone. Others sound older, as though borrowed from the dreams of those who once stood beneath these same branches. Names surface, places you have never been, but feel familiar. Perhaps they are memories stored not in your mind, but in the forest itself. For science tells us that trees hold time. Each ring within a trunk is a year, a memory etched in wood. Droughts recorded in narrow lines. Summers of abundance in wider ones. Fires leaving scars, storms leaving stains. A tree is a library of weather, a record of the earth's moods. When you lean against this oak, you feel that archive pressing against your skin. And in the rush of rain, you imagine those rings speaking, each one a word in the story of the world. The forest darkens as you go deeper. The rain is muffled here, caught in a canopy so thick that the storm feels distant, as though you've stepped into another world. And yet the whispers grow clearer. They no longer sound random. They fall into rhythm like breath. The trees inhale, the trees exhale. Their voices ride on the wind. You begin to wonder, is the forest speaking only to itself, or is it speaking to you? The thought lingers as you walk. Perhaps language has always been larger than human speech. Perhaps every wave, every bird call, Every rustle of leaves has always been part of an immense conversation. We only ever catch fragments, like standing at the edge of an ocean and hearing a single wave, knowing it belongs to a sea of endless sound. You stop again, closing your eyes. The whispers press closer. Some feel like comfort, wrapping around you like a blanket. Others feel like warnings, urging you to listen more carefully, to pay attention. A single drop of rain slides down your temple. You let it fall, and in its cool trail you sense the forest speaking directly. You are not alone. You have never been alone. Not once, not ever. Your breathing slows. The whispers soften, almost fading into silence. But just when you think they've gone, the voices swell again, rising together like a chant. The forest is a choir now. The branches clap with rain. The leaves tremble with rhythm. The wind carries melody. And within it all, a single phrase emerges. Clear, gentle, meant only for you. The trees say your name. You open your eyes in surprise. Of course, no one is there. Only rain, only branches, only shadows in the storm. And yet, deep inside, you know what you heard. The forest has remembered you. You walk on, guided by voices only you can hear. They do not shout, they do not command. They only whisper, and in those whispers lies a truth. Sometimes the universe does not need to speak loudly to be understood. And so you let the trees lead you deeper into their cathedral of roots and shadows until the rain softens again and the storm gives way to a quieter night. But as the whispers fade, you notice something else, a flicker of light in the distance, rising not from the ground, but from the endless sky above. The forest's voice leads you upward, toward the stars waiting beyond the storm. You sit in the quiet of your room, the storm still pressing gently against the walls. The curtains sway as though stirred by a breath you cannot quite place. Beyond the fabric, you know the window waits, tall and silent, watching. It is only glass, and yet you cannot shake the feeling that it remembers more than you do. The sound of rain is steady, a soft percussion across the pane. Each drop slides downward, leaving its mark for a moment before vanishing into the larger sheet of water. To watch it is to see the world written and erased again, story after story told only to disappear. And yet, in the act of falling, each raindrop is complete. Every drop holds within it the weight of oceans, the memory of rivers, the whispers of clouds. You breathe with it slowly, as though the rhythm belongs not only to the rain but also to you. When you part the curtain, the glass gleams. The world outside is a blur of shifting water and shadow. But even blurred, it feels alive. You imagine eyes staring back, their lids made of storm, their pupils wide as night. In science, they say the observer changes the observed, a principle woven deep into quantum theory. To look is to alter, to gaze is to touch. And as you stand before the window, you wonder if it gazes too, reshaping itself around the soft shape of your presence. The glass is cold beneath your fingertips. Touch it, and it responds not with words, but with the condensation of your breath, the faint warmth of your skin pressed against its chill. It is a fragile boundary, thin as thought, yet strong enough to separate two entire worlds. Inside, the warmth of your body, your pulse, your fragile humanness. Outside, the boundless storm, the unmeasured sky, the endless reach of elements you can never control. The window, then, is not simply a pane of glass. It is a threshold like so many thresholds in life. The line between safety and vulnerability, between silence and sound, between self and other. And thresholds carry voices of their own. When the wind surges, the window creaks as though with effort, like a throat straining to form words. When lightning flickers, its surface glows for the briefest instant, silver and trembling. like an eye caught in revelation. And when the rain streaks down in crooked lines, they look like veins pulsing with something both ancient and familiar. The house seems to breathe through it, sighing as though relieved that you are here to listen. You close your eyes. Behind your eyelids, the storm continues, transformed now into thought. You imagine how light passes through the window each day, scattering across the floor, carrying with it the stories of the sun. Every beam has traveled across unimaginable distances, bent by gravity, scattered by clouds, absorbed and re-emitted by atoms, until finally it rests here within your room. The glass is not simply watching. It is a messenger bearing the memory of stars. Even at night, the window does not rest. It reflects, turning inward, showing you to yourself. There, in its dark surface, you catch glimpses not only of your form, but of something stranger. The way shadows cling, the way your outline seems softer than usual, as though the glass remembers versions of you that even you have forgotten. Science calls it reflection, the bending of light back toward its source. Yet to you, it feels more intimate, as though the window knows you better than you know yourself, holding every version of your face it has ever mirrored. You let the curtain fall again, but the feeling lingers. The house is not empty. It waits with you, breathing with you, watching with you. You hear the rain trace its paths across the walls, hear the subtle vibrations in the floorboards, the muted groan of the beams overhead. Every structure, no matter how still, carries echoes of movement. Physics tells us that atoms vibrate ceaselessly, that even in silence there is a dance too small to hear. Perhaps what you sense now is not imagination at all, but the truth of a universe that never truly stops. Your mind drifts deeper. You remember how ancient people saw windows not as barriers, but as eyes of the house, portals through which spirit and weather could travel. To them, glass was not lifeless. It was alive, shimmering with forces that could bless or haunt. And here you are, centuries later, feeling something of the same. The rational part of you names its structure, temperature, reflection. Yet the quieter part knows it is something more. For every window faces not just outward, but inward. It is as much about what you see as how you are seen. And sometimes it feels as though the world outside does not simply exist, but notices you in return. Science may not call it gaze, but you feel it all the same. The hum of connection, the subtle awareness of being woven into something vast. You rest your hand against the curtain once more, but you do not close it tightly. You leave a sliver open, a narrow space where rain light seeps in. The window watches, and you let it. For what is watching, if not a reminder of presence? The glass becomes not something to fear, but something to accept, a silent companion that records without judgment, that reflects without demand. The storm eases little by little. The rain softens to a hush. The thunder drifts farther away. Yet the window remains, glowing faintly with the residue of the storm. Its surface still streaked, still blurred, like a memory half forgotten but not erased. You breathe with it one last time, slow and steady, feeling the strange comfort in knowing you're not entirely alone. And in that stillness, another thought emerges, a question as soft as the rain now falling against the earth outside. If windows are eyes, what does the night itself see? The glass grows dim, the storm fades, but the feeling remains, a presence beyond the pain, waiting in silence. And as you drift deeper into thought, you begin to wonder what lies not at the window, but within the dream that now presses at its edges. You lie still, listening. The rain presses against the roof, each drop a finger tapping the skin of the house. The storm has grown gentler, but in the gentleness, other sounds become clear. Above you, the attic stirs. A long, heavy creak. A pause. then the faint shuffle of something shifting its weight. The air inside your room feels different now, thicker, as though the walls themselves are leaning in, eager to share a story too old to tell plainly. You close your eyes and try to convince yourself that it is only the wind, but a second sound rises, a dragging, slow, and deliberate, as if a box or trunk is being pulled across the wooden floorboards overhead. You breathe in, you breathe out. The rhythm of your breath becomes a kind of counterpoint to the rhythm of the house. In this quiet exchange, you remember something. Sound itself is memory. Every creak, every echo, every whisper in the beams above is the vibration of what carrying the imprint of stress, of weight, of time. What holds memory not in thought, but in shape. Its fibers stretch, bend, and scar. Every groan you hear is the timber recalling what has passed over it. Perhaps the attic is not haunted by ghosts, but by physics. Still, you listen. The attic is the highest chamber of the house, pressed close to the roof where rain, wind, and temperature collide. It is the most changeable part of the structure, cold in winter, burning in summer, expanding and contracting with the whims of weather. The boards shift against one another, opening small gaps, closing them again. Each motion sounds like a footstep, a shuffle, a reminder that change is never silent. In the fog of your thoughts, the attic begins to feel like a memory palace. Somewhere above, the sounds settle into a pattern, and the pattern into suggestion. Your mind sketches figures where none stand, stories where only physics plays. This is what the brain does best. It seeks shape in chaos. Just as it finds faces in clouds, constellations in stars, it finds footsteps in creaks. And in that searching, you realize something profound. Your brain is an attic too, is filled with echoes, with boxes sealed and forgotten, with beams that groan when old memories shift against one another. Science tells us that memory is not fixed. Each time you recall, you alter. Each time you return to a thought, it becomes reshaped, restored. The attic of your mind is alive, just like the attic of this house. You wonder how many sounds above you are truly the house, and how many are your own thoughts projected upward, wearing wooden disguises. Another creak answers. Rain streaks the roof, steady and insistent. You imagine the drops falling not just as water, but as time itself. Every drop a moment, slipping past, striking the surface of the world, leaving a sound behind. If time could be heard, perhaps it would sound like this. 100 tiny taps, an endless rhythm against the shingles above. You let your awareness drift deeper. The attic becomes a canvas where mind and matter overlap. The science of acoustics tells you that sound is vibration, a wave traveling through matter, searching for something to carry it. In this storm, vibrations move through wood, through nails, through air, until they meet your ears. Inside, tiny bones shift, fluid ripples, nerves spark. The house speaks, and your body answers. It occurs to you that sound is not only heard, it is felt. The creak of the attic beams vibrates faintly through the walls, down the floor, into your body. You're not just listening to the attic, you are sharing in its shiver. You open your eyes and imagine climbing the narrow ladder into the attic space. The air would be dry, dust floating in the beam of flashlight. Old trunks might rest against the rafters. Forgotten coats, yellowed papers, objects that once mattered and now simply wait. The science of entropy tells us that all systems tend toward disorder. Yet in this attic, disorder takes the form of stories left unfinished. Objects whose meanings were once sharp, but now blur like shadows and dust. Perhaps the attic creaks, not because of ghosts or weather alone, but because it carries too many unspoken words. It has become swollen with waiting. You picture the ceiling above as a skin stretched tight, holding back the weight of all those echoes. You wonder if memories, real or imagined, can press so hard against silence that they make sound. And if so, then maybe the attic isn't remembering footsteps at all. Maybe it is rehearsing them. Outside, the wind gusts, shaking the trees. Branches rake across the roof. Another long creak slides through the beams, low and mournful. You let it wash over you without fear, like a tide of wood and weather. Your thoughts turn again to science, to the way resonance works. When two things vibrate at the same frequency, they amplify each other, becoming louder, more alive. Could it be that your heartbeat, steady and slow beneath your ribs, has found resonance with the house? Could it be that you and the attic are, for this moment, the same instrument, two chambers echoing one another, two sets of vibrations in harmony? The idea brings you a strange comfort. You're not alone in this listening. The house listens with you. The rain eases for a moment, a pause in the storm's language. The attic groans once more, softer now, like a tired breath. The sound drifts downward, settling into your body, becoming part of your own rhythm. You close your eyes again. You imagine the creaks and shuffles above, not as warnings, but as lullabies. The house, old and weary, is singing you to rest in the only voice it knows, with straining, nails stretching, beams whispering. A cradle of sound in the storm. As sleep edges closer, you realize that echoes, whether in wood or in memory, are not meant to frighten. They are reminders that nothing vanishes without leaving a trace. Every step, every word, every drop of rain becomes part of the ongoing song of existence. And maybe, just maybe, if you listen closely enough, you can hear the next chapter beginning to hum inside the silence. A story waiting behind the walls, where the house itself begins to breathe. The attic quiets, but the silence is not empty. It feels charged, alive, as if the walls themselves are leaning closer. And you wonder if the attic remembers what might the very walls of the house still hold. The storm does not vanish. It softens. What was once pounding and urgent now eases into rhythm, a cadence you can almost follow with your breath. Each drop that taps the roof above you feels like a syllable. Each stream that slides down the window feels like a sentence. You lie still, listening, and the longer you listen, the more you realize that the rain is not just falling. It is speaking. You have always heard rain as sound. But tonight, the storm leans closer. Tonight, the rain arranges itself like a story. Its voices overlap, whispers within whispers. Yet there is a pattern, a hidden thread woven through. You cannot translate it into words, not exactly, but you feel the meaning press against you like warmth in the dark. The story begins not with you, but with the earth itself. Long before cities, before people, before names were ever spoken, there was rain. Rain carved the first valleys, filled the first rivers, and gave life to the first forests. Without it, the soil would have remained barren, seeds forever asleep. Without rain, there would have been no oceans, no streams, no fragile pond where the first tiny cells learned how to breathe. Every drop you hear tonight is a descendant of those first waters. The molecules within it are ancient, endlessly recycled. What falls on your roof now may once have moved through the veins of a fern that grew 300 million years ago. It may have swirled inside a prehistoric sea, brushed the scales of a fish that left the water to crawl on land. It may have frozen into a glacier, then melted into a river, then lifted again into the sky as invisible vapor. The rain is not new. It is the same story told again and again, retold across time. You close your eyes and listen deeper. The rain is steady, like the ticking of a cosmic clock, and you realize This sound has been heard for as long as hearing itself has existed. Animals once listened as you do now. The earliest humans crouched under branches or inside caves, letting storms lull them into half-dreams. Rain has always been a comfort because its song tells you that the cycle continues, that the earth still breathes, that time is still unfolding. But the rain story tonight is not only about beginnings. It is also about loss. Between the drops, you sense a sadness like a minor key in music. The rain tells of rivers dammed, forests cleared, oceans warming. It remembers what has vanished. It remembers species that no longer return its reflection. The rain does not accuse. It only records. Each drop carries memory, the way a tear carries emotion. When it falls, it writes those memories into the ground. And yet, within that sadness, there is resilience. The rain reminds you that it will fall still long after you, long after cities, long after this house. It will fall on ruins and on fresh green shoots. It will shape what comes next, as it always has. There is grief, yes, but also patience, a kind of eternal waiting. You breathe slowly, matching the rhythm. And in that quiet rhythm, you begin to imagine the science hidden inside the storm's voice. Each drop forms high above, where vapor cools and condenses. It clings to the tiniest specks, dust, pollen, ash, even fragments from meteorites. Raindrops are born around imperfections. That thought lingers with you. Water needs a flaw to gather around. Just like memories need a moment to cling to, or stories need silence to hold their shape. Without imperfection, there would be no rain at all. The drops grow heavy until gravity insists they fall. And as they fall, they shape themselves, not into teardrops as people imagine, but into tiny spheres. Perfect, round, simple, each one reflecting the entire world in miniature. You imagine them tumbling through the air, carrying reflections of clouds, trees, rooftops, and then shattering on the ground into countless smaller mirrors. A billion reflections returning to the soil. The science becomes poetry. The poetry becomes story. And the story becomes something you feel in your chest more than you understand in your mind. Perhaps that is why, across cultures, rain has always been tied to memory, to cleansing, to renewal. It is water's way of returning, of touching the world again and again. Each drop is a reminder that nothing is ever truly gone, only transformed. The oceans rise into clouds. The clouds fall into rivers. The rivers run back into oceans. Round and round without end. The rain tells you this gently, as if rocking you with its repetition. And then, like a change in tone, you hear something else within the story. Voices. They are faint, but undeniable. You know they are only in your imagination, shaped by the randomness of rhythm and the mind's tendency to weave meaning from sound. Still, they feel real. A soft syllable here, a whisper there, old names perhaps, forgotten places, half-remembered dreams. It is as though the rain carries the residue of human longing, words never spoken, songs never finished, promises never kept. The drops do not judge. They simply repeat. They carry, they echo, they return. You wonder if memories are not unlike rain. Perhaps your own thoughts rise like vapor into the air of your mind, unseen, weightless. Then, at times, they cool, condense, and fall back down as dreams. Sometimes gentle, sometimes heavy, always reshaping the landscape inside you. The rain tells you that memory is weather, not stone. Always moving, always reshaping, always alive. You open your eyes to the window. The glass glistens with streaks, rivers sliding down in parallel lines. They blur the outside world, turning the night into something soft and uncertain. Each streak feels like a sentence written briefly, then erased. Each rivulet a story that flows for a while, then disappears into the frame. You wonder how many stories have been erased, how many voices lost. But the rain reassures you. Nothing is truly lost. The molecules remain. The cycle continues. What is gone has only taken another form. You breathe again, slower this time, and the story of the rain becomes less about sadness and more about connection. The same drops that fall now will rise again and one day fall somewhere else. Perhaps on a mountain in another country. Perhaps on the leaves of a tree not yet born. Perhaps into the mouth of another listener centuries from now who will pause in their own quiet night and wonder at the taste of water on their tongue. The rain tells you that you are part of this endless cycle, that you are not separate, that even now, as you listen, the storm writes you into its memory. Outside, thunder rolls faintly, not as anger but as punctuation. The story is not finished, it only shifts tone. You sense that the rain could go on forever, telling tale after tale, each drop another word, another voice, another echo. But you also sense that there is more waiting, another chapter, another layer, another mystery beyond the glass. You close your eyes once more. The sound of the storm blurs into your breath. The rain keeps speaking, but now its words fold into your dreams. And you wonder, if water can carry stories, can the walls around you also remember? Can a house hold echoes, the way clouds hold vapor, the way air holds voices? The question lingers, soft and unresolved, as the story of rain fades into the silence above your ceiling. And as the rain continues its endless story, you begin to wonder what other voices linger close. Not in the sky, but within the walls above you. The storm has passed. The walls no longer shudder. The old house, which only a moment ago felt alive with creaks and whispers, now sighs in relief. The rain, once fierce and endless, has quieted. The roof no longer drums with water. The air is hushed, as if the entire world has inhaled and forgotten, for just a little while, how to breathe out. You sit by the window again, watching the glass glisten. Lines of raindrops slide down, merging and separating, as if the glass were a stage for tiny lives you never noticed before. And then your eyes catch it, the very last drop. It clings to the edge of the window pane, round and trembling. For a moment, it seems almost alive. Its tiny body stretches, its thin skin shimmering with all the colors hidden in clear light. Pale blues, faint gold, faint shadows of the lamp in your room. It doesn't fall. Not yet. That small hesitation, that fragile choice, holds your gaze. And strangely, you feel as if the entire night has led to this moment. The last drop is not just water. It is time itself pausing. Think of it. A storm begins with billions of drops rising invisibly from oceans, rivers, and soil. Heat lifts them into the sky, invisible travelers carried by air. They gather into clouds, turning invisible vapor into visible weight. They wait, they cool, they condense, until finally they release themselves as rain. Every drop is a journey, a life in miniature. And now, here, this single one is the final traveler, the one who lingered while all the others moved on. You lean closer to the glass. The drop wobbles, holding on by the smallest thread of surface tension. It is surface tension that allows water to cling, a force made from invisible bonds between molecules. Each water molecule, shaped like a tiny letter V, holds hands with its neighbors, refusing to let go. That is why the drop quivers at the edge. Part of it is pulled down by gravity, yet part of it is held together by invisible companionship. You realize, watching it, that you two are held together by invisible bonds, not of water, but of memory, of feeling, of people you've met and voices you carry. You cling, just as the drop clings, because life is made of connections. The room grows darker, but the drop glows faintly in the lamp's reflection. You wonder, what will happen the moment it falls? When the drop finally lets go, it will join the ground below, merging with soil, with stone, with countless other drops that have already finished their fall. Nothing is lost. In science, there is a principle: conservation. Matter does not vanish. It only changes shape, changes form, finds another path. The last drop, too, will continue its journey. Maybe into the soil, maybe into a root, maybe into the air again, lifted once more to become part of a new cloud. This is the cycle, endless, patient, eternal. Every raindrop you see has been here before. Some may have fallen on ancient mountains. Some may have glided down leaves in a forest long gone. Some may even have been swallowed by a dinosaur millions of years ago. The drop on your window is not new. It is ancient, older than memory, older than fear. And yet, in this moment, it feels like yours. You close your eyes and listen. The silence is vast, but not empty. There is a hum to it, a quiet presence. Your body still remembers the storm, the deep percussion of rain, the way thunder stretched time into long, trembling seconds. But now the absence of sound is just as powerful. It is a kind of stillness that wraps around you, soft as a blanket. The last drop still waits. You feel its pause as your own. How many moments in life are like this, suspended between holding on and letting go? You remember choices you delayed, words you kept unspoken, times when you lingered at the edge of change, trembling like this tiny sphere of water. And you realize, even hesitation has beauty. Even waiting carries meaning. Science, too, speaks of thresholds. A drop waits until its weight exceeds the tension that holds it, and then it falls. A star waits until gravity crushes it into fire, and then it shines. A seed waits until warmth touches soil, and then it opens. Waiting is not nothing. It is preparation. The drop's trembling is not weakness. It is the balance before release. You breathe slowly, and the drop shivers. Light bends through it, scattering into a faint rainbow that only you can see. The drop becomes a lens, a tiny universe bending the world. Through it, the garden outside blurs and curves, as if you were seeing reality through another dimension. It is a reminder that perspective changes everything. A single drop can make the ordinary strange, can make the familiar magical. And then, at last, the drop lets go. It falls in silence. Such a small sound, too quiet for you to hear. Yet you feel it inside yourself. A tiny release. You smile, because somehow you know the night has given you a gift. The storm that began with noise and fear has ended with stillness and calm. The last drop has shown you that even endings can be tender. Even the smallest pause can be sacred. You lean back, letting your body sink into the chair. The window is bare now, clean, almost empty. Yet in that emptiness there is peace. The storm has washed the world, and in its wake there is space for rest. You close your eyes again, and your breath slows. Sleep feels close, like a doorway, just a little ajar. The night does not demand anything from you. It simply offers. It offers calm, silence, and the soft truth that every storm passes, every drop falls, and every waiting ends. And as you drift in this thought, you wonder, if the last drop has already fallen, what comes after the silence it leaves behind?